You're now listening to the Fullerton Unfiltered podcast. Straightforward, no nonsense business advice. Completely unfiltered. Grow your business. Grow your life. Now, here's your host, Brian Fullerton.
Hey, what's going on, guys? This is another episode of the Fullerton Unfiltered podcast. Thanks so much for joining in this beautiful morning or afternoon. Depends when you guys are listening to this. Maybe even first thing on a weekday. You guys are out there mowing grass, kicking butt, ready to get your day started. Well, today we're just going to do a simple solo episode here. Something fun that I wanted to talk to you guys about. This idea that I wanted to communicate to you guys about. If I was going to do it all over again, if we were going to go back all the way to the beginning, what would I do differently? What would I do now, knowing what I know now? And this actual talk or episode was inspired by one of you guys. We did a coaching call not too long ago, and the gentleman that called in, I'm not going to give his name out or anything like that, but we do a lot of coaching calls with a lot of you guys. You can schedule those at launchpreneuracademy.com, and they're also available in the Whole Ball of Wax bundle. So if you get the all-in Whole Ball of Wax, which is the training course that is all of our training courses, and then it's a significantly discounted price. It also includes a coaching call. So I'm not sure if it was one that we redeemed from the Whole Ball of Wax bundle or just an a la carte purchase. But long story short, the gentleman and I, we had a great hour conversation, and he was asking, hey, the last 20 minutes, he said, hey, if you had to go do it all over again, what would you do differently? Would there be anything that you were doing differently? And I thought it was a really good question. The gentleman that called, he was actually a full-time lawyer, and he's like mid-30s, but he was looking for a transition out of that career. And he's like, I've always liked working outdoors. I've always liked doing lawn care, landscaping. He's like, I just want to be outside. I want to change it up. He's like, I'm going to get my ducks in a row. This call was actually about a week ago. We're in mid-August here, 2020. And he wants to line up his ducks in a row, if you will, for spring of 2021. So a lot of you guys do that. A lot of you guys are listening in. You took, the 6 or 9 months to get ready to launch your business. You got the name figured out. You got this figured out. You got your colors, your postcards, your marketing materials, your CRM figured out. Some of you guys get started that way. Some of us don't. Some of us just jump right into it, and we have to evolve and change along the way. So what I'm going to talk about is three big areas or three key things that I would have changed if I was going to take it all the way back to the beginning, knowing what I know now. If I was going to start a new lawn and landscape business, these are three things that I would focus on big time in the beginning that I see sometimes also people gloss over. So let's do this. Before we jump into it, we're going to hear from today's show sponsors, and then we're going to get right back into it.
This industry's largest peer-to-peer led training event is just around the corner. And if you guys are ready to bump it up a notch and lay the foundation for an incredibly successful 2021, then Launchpreneur Academy Live 2020 is an absolute must-attend event. Launchpreneur Academy Live. The fun takes place November 7th in Novi, Michigan at the Suburban Collection Showplace. This year we have 6 amazing speakers, including Nick Carlson, Caleb and Brittany Allman, Corey Ballard, Jeff Joyner, Keith Kalfas, and Stanley Genetic. This all-day long exclusive conference focuses on safety training, sales training, and features live panels and demos as well. You definitely don't want to miss out. Refocus, regroup, and re-engage with us this fall at Launchpreneur Academy Live 2020. We're so excited to host you guys in Novi, Michigan, and help propel your business to the next level. Hotels and event registration information can all be found at launchpreneuracademy.com and in today's show notes. And follow along as the excitement builds with the Instagram hashtag LAL2020. See you November 7th.
Hello, it's Mr. Producer. Got to admit, I had a lot of fun putting that spot together for Brian. He did ask me to let you know a couple of things about the November 7th event. Now, should it get canceled because of COVID or government restrictions, and don't get me started on government restrictions, your ticket will be refunded 100%. You might also want to purchase the flight travel insurance. That way, protect yourself regarding airfare. Launchpreneuracademy.com to get registered. And now, back to more of Fullerton Unfiltered with Brian Fullerton.
Awesome. Great deal. Well, here we go. Let's get right back into it, guys. So 3 things that I wanted to talk about with getting your business started today that I would have done way back when. So I wrote down 3 bullet points. We're going to be talking about the number 1, we're going to be talking about the name. So your name, your color schemes, the way to approach and imagine and envision your business. The second one I was going to talk about was your target customer avatar. What does that customer look like? And number three, we're going to be talking about equipment. We're going to be taking it all the way back to equipment, the right things to buy, maybe the wrong things to buy. Lord knows that I kind of got started, kind of Forrest Gumping my way to the finish line. But looking back on it, I definitely made some wrong equipment purchases. I had some wrong customers, and I definitely wouldn't say that. I don't say that I had the wrong name for my business with Brian's Lawn Maintenance, but if I could go all the way back and restart, I would do it a little bit differently. Now, a lot of these thoughts I'm going to bring to you guys, some of them are my thoughts. Some of them are also thoughts that I've accumulated from great guys like Nick Carlson and Paul Jameson and a bunch of you, my friend Mike, and just been able to kind of like distill all this information that's out there and break it down into little bite-sized pieces that we can all digest. And I'm like, man, looking back on it, yeah, I should have did this. Yeah, I should have did that. So let's just jump right into it. We're not going to take all day here. This will be hopefully short and sweet. The first one that I would go with, like I said, was the name. Now, I guess with my company, my story is, if some of you guys have heard this from episode 1, is I was like the neighborhood lawn care kid, right? I was 10, 12 years old, living in my mom's trailer park. And, you know, I was that 10-year-old boy that just wanted to make money for, back in the day, I loved fireworks. I still love fireworks. And then number 2, the craze of the 90s was Subway, right? And so Subway was like, you know, fine dining, especially if you're a little podunk kid. You're like, man, one day we can have this beautiful sub. It'll be amazing, right? And about 2 miles down the dirt road, it broke out into actually where my route is now, on Wixom Road, there is a Subway. And I know it sounds kind of dorky, but like that was the dream, right? Like one day I was 10, 12 years old. I'm going to buy enough fireworks to be like the cool kid, have all the coolest fireworks. And then we're also going to go take our little Schwinn bike or whatever, you know, all the way to my little mongoose, take it all the way up to Subway and get those Subway sandwiches, right? And that was honestly, we always talk about desire and motivation. You got to have something that you want, and you got to have your why. Well, my why was I wanted big firework displays for the 4th of July, and I also wanted those footlong sandwiches, right? So that was how I got started. And back then, well, my name was Brian, and I did lawn care. And I know you guys think that I'm Donald Trump Jr. here, but that was the extent of my business acumen. I said, well, it's Brian, it's lawn care, it's Brian's Lawn Care. And so that's what I ran with. Again, the abridged version is from about 10, 12 years old to about 16, I did lawn care as like the neighborhood kid. I would literally wheel down my little push mower going from house to house. I'm in a trailer park back then that had 635 lots, 635 trailers. This thing is probably a half mile, maybe a mile by mile, size trailer park. It's a good half mile by half mile. It's a large trailer park. And I would have lawns on the other side of the whole trailer park, this big horseshoe thing. And there's like section 1 or phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. And I lived in phase 3. So there was times when I had customers at 10, 12 years old. I'd call them on the phone, right? The little phone that's connected by cord to the wall. Some of you younger guys don't know that phones used to be attached to the wall. And if you were really rich, you had like an extension cord on the cord, so you could like walk 20 feet away from like home base. That's how you know you were the cat's meow. So back then I'd call up Susie. Hey, Susie, I'm going to go cut your lawn. And, no problem, honey. Come on over. It definitely needs it. And I was 10, 12 years old. And I would wheel that little lawnmower, dude, little push mower, all the way around it back up, up in the snow 2 miles one way, down the snow in the road 2 miles one way, like those kind of stories, right? But that's what I did. I threw my little trimmer on there, my little handheld blower. It was a little like junky Craftsman stuff way back in the day. This is 20 years ago. And I would roll my little lawnmower all the way down to the other side. And that was my illustrious start to my lawn care business. It was Brian's Lawn Care. Well, the long story short is that from 16 to 20, I go and I start working at Little Caesars Corporation. Then I had a little stint at True Green for a year. And when I got fired from Little Caesars, I started cutting grass on the side. I had to make ends meet. I started to go back to cutting grass just nights and weekends. I picked up, 10 or 15 of my original customers, and I was excited about it. That 10, 15, $10, $12, $15 a cut. You cut 10, 20 lawns. That's $300-$400 a weekend. That adds up, even little trailer park lawns. And I know there's a lot of you guys that cut grass nights and weekends, and you guys can definitely relate. That does make a dent. So when I was 20, 21, well, I said 19, 20, and I was deciding to get into business for myself and actually go back to revisiting lawn care professionally or for a full-time gig, I went down to the 1200 building down in Pontiac. That's our county office, the county clerk, and all the offices there, the big, county state building, whatever it's called. And so it's, this huge, intimidating building. And while I'm down there, it was, I'm going to the clerk and she's like, what's the name that you want to register for a business? And I said, well, Brian's Lawn Care. And she goes, well, unfortunately, Brian's Lawn Care is taken. And I said, she goes, what do you do? Because I was like scrambling. It's a 45-minute drive there, 45-minute drive back, 20-minute wait, government offices, right? It's always a nightmare. And so I said, well, I do a lot with like maintenance. Like I maintain people's properties. I was like 19, 20, and I definitely was a newbie. And she goes, well, let's try Brian's Lawn Maintenance. And I said, sure. So that was available. I registered the name, a little DBA for $15 or $20, and I was in business. I was ready to rock and roll. And I'm not saying that was a mistake, but I just wanted to talk about a thought that maybe we could have did it a little bit different. Again, we're talking to this 38-year-old guy or 35-year-old guy who's a lawyer, and he's deciding to get into business for himself. And he said, well, what would you do different? And I said, well, I would have definitely named my business something other than myself. Now, if you're going to be an owner-operator and you're going to put 2-3 decades into this thing, it's okay if you want to name it after yourself. There's nothing wrong with that. But as you guys can imagine, when people sign up for Brian's Lawn Maintenance, who are they looking to see every day? Brian. They're looking to see Brian because he's the main guy. Now, we can wiggle out of that a little bit, but the bottom line is that if you build your customer relationship based on you and not the company, they're going to be expecting you. Now, because people expect me every week, we charge a premium because we're boutique, because you do get me. And if you're going to get me every time doing said service, well, I'm going to get paid a premium because we're artisan. We're next level. We do a really, really good job because we're there every time and we care. If you're going to go a little bit bigger of a company, you'll notice that like Nick Carlson, I think it was Laser Cuts Landscaping, Corey Ballard, he's got Perfect Cut. There's a lot of companies that are like Bright Views and United. Most of you guys couldn't even say the names of who owns some of these larger companies. And frankly, neither could I. So when you're in town, a couple quick suggestions that I told the guy that we're doing this coaching call with, and also what I'll maybe just give you guys the lay of the land is, if you're just starting your lawn and landscape company, you can name it after your town. You can name it after your city. You can name it after something geographically. Like if you're in like the Huron Valley, right? We have a section of topography here. We call it the Huron Valley, and you can call it Huron Valley Landscaping, Huron Valley Lawn Care. Right? That is like a region or an area. Some of you guys, like for example, we live in, Livingston County, right? It can be Livingston County, Livingston Landscaping, right? And that's a county, and you maybe as a business owner service that whole county, that whole area. Maybe you're in a city. One of our friends that listens to the show, he lives in Stoneville. So maybe it can be Stoneville Lawn and Landscape. Something like that. So it's a region or it's an area or it's a section. Now, don't also get too specific though as well, because let's say you have 3 small towns where you live. There's 5,000, 10,000, and 20,000 people there, and you do a Monday route, a Tuesday, Wednesday route, and a Thursday, Friday route in the 3 different cities, right? You don't want to just say, well, we're only in, Naperville, right? Naperville Landscape, because you're in, 2 other cities, maybe broaden it out to the county or a little bit wider area, like the DMV, right? You can have like the DMV Lawn and Landscape. Keep it in a larger region and a larger place. The other one is the name. Some of us, again, we go for our personal name. Let's say you're, Mike Johnson, and you have Johnson's Landscaping. There's nothing wrong with that. But again, they're going to want Mike Johnson every time. Now, if you had it as, Diamond Cuts Landscaping or Triple Cut Lawn Care or, you guys know what I'm saying? You guys have Rolling Hills Landscaping. I like Britt Dow, Green Again Lawn Care. Right? You can name it something more abstract, more generic, right? And that way, when somebody calls in, they can say, well, who do I talk to sign up? Well, you can call the office. You can call the number on the truck. You can call the number on the trailer. And then it goes back to home base. They might not even know that you on the rig, because it's your first rig, your first crew, own that business. So when they call in, they call the office number, and that's really your office number or your cell phone, right? Again, what I would say is if you're going to start if I was going to start all over again, you got to figure out how big of a company are you going to make this thing? Are you going to keep it short and sweet, a small little lawn and landscape business where you want 100 clients, do 250 grand a year gross revenue or less, and you're going to keep it in your small town and you're going to be the guy? Or do you want to dominate? Do you want to crush? Do you want to crush it with where you live in your area? Do you want to build the next $1, $2, $5 million company? Again, no right or wrong answer. I think both are right. If you want to, build systems and grow and automate and have a, 25 to 50 person company, dude, I'm all about that life. If you want to have an owner operator business where you have 30, 40, 50, 60% gross profit margins and clean up that way and just have a small manageable business, I'm all about that life too. I think the biggest thing is that there is no right or wrong answer in business and entrepreneurship in the name of how you want to grow your company. Just know that there's pros and cons to different business models, and you got to spend time watching YouTube videos, listening to podcasts. Go check out Josh Latimer and different people that talk about growing service industries, businesses. There's different levels of profitability. There's different freedoms at each level. There's different requirements and overhead at different levels. Some people are risk adverse. Some people like risk. Some people hate risk. Some people like exposure. Some people hate exposure. Every time I talk to Corey Ballard, I know this is something that's in the back of his mind because he brings it up frequently, is you never know if somebody might get hurt or get killed, working for you. Let's say you got 200, 300, 400 employees that are taking out equipment and mowing all day. Are you willing to, how are you going to handle if somebody gets hurt in your company? Some people don't want to take that level of responsibility, right? That level of ownership. Right. So you have to, can some people do that? Can some people not? It's really up to you. I went and we took some gun training, some firearm training just a couple of weeks ago, and we're getting our CPL and all this other mess. And the gentleman, he was going through his speech and the legal part, and he said, before we start getting into like the X's and O's of like do's and don'ts, he like kind of really gave the macro. He said, are you able to pull your firearm? Are you able to defend your life? Are you able to take another person's life? Are you able to? Like, does your moral compass or standard allow you to do it? Does your religious beliefs allow you to do it? I thought it was really insightful because people just think that, they start thinking tactical, but you got to zoom out a little bit bigger. What are you willing to do? Who are you? Are you willing to do certain things? Are you willing to take on a couple $100,000 of debt to grow a bigger company? Can you sleep at night knowing that you have that many moving parts? Some people, yes. Some people, no. So again, if I was going to take it all the way back to the beginning, would we do our name differently? I personally would. I don't think I really changed my color schemes. I do like the red and black. It is very bold. It's very loud. I talked with Eric Triplett, the Pond Digger. We talked a lot about marketing and personal branding and psychology. Do yourself a favor. If you're just getting started or you're trying to rebrand, go type in color wheel psychology, marketing color wheel. And when you go to Google, you'll see a whole bunch of stuff. I mean, you'll open up a whole new world that you didn't know existed about how marketing and advertising works with the color wheel and color schemes, and what yellows means, what purples means, what greens mean, what reds mean. There's a reason that all of my stuff is red and black. I like the boldness, the authoritativeness, the loud, the out there, the in your face, the very you can't miss me with my kind of marketing. Now, my marketing doesn't scream empathy. It doesn't scream compassionate. It doesn't scream love. It doesn't scream kindness, right? So that's something that we have to make sure that we deliver with that personal touch and fill in the gaps of where our marketing doesn't communicate that. But for a lot of guys in lawn landscape, generic, simple colors and tones would be greens and yellows. Greens and yellows or greens and whites. I like having white as the accent to whatever the color that you want your business to be. You want it to be orange and white, orange and black. Green and white, green and black. Greens and yellows, like a little bit of a color mixture there, like my friend Brandon with Envision. Because we talked about all this way in the beginning 3 years ago when he was getting his business started. And he was like, well, I'm thinking about doing these color schemes. And I said, do this, but keep it simple. Keep it the greens, keep it the yellows, and the slate grays. And he had those ideas before he came to me, but he's like, would you change anything here? I said, no, actually, if I was going to do it all again, I would probably go with greens and whites, greens and yellows, something simple, right? So again, one other thing with the name is you might want to talk about like what you guys do, like what you guys, how you perform. So it could be called performance lawn care, quality lawn care, next level lawn and landscape, pinnacle landscape solutions, right? Like it depends on what you're trying to communicate from your business, but also who you're trying to communicate to, which is number 2, our target customer, right? So let's say that you have, Bob's Lawn Care. That's okay. But let's go to number 2, which is your target customer. So let's say you're trying to do the nicer subdivisions, the nicer areas. In fact, looking back on it, that's something that I would have reevaluated. I would have drawn it out. I would have drew out my property lines for where I wanted my business, the target city, the target area, the target routes. Where's the money? Where's the customers that want more services, year-round services? Where are customers that are going to, here's the line, if you can remember any one thing from this podcast, go where you're celebrated, not where you're tolerated. Okay, there's times where we go in the subdivisions, and you guys know this because you guys have the same kind of clientele all around town as well. Some people, they want bi-weekly service or thrice weekly, every other week or every other 3 weeks. They don't want an aeration. They don't want the lawn fertilized. They don't irrigate. They don't want the shrubs to be trimmed or pruned annually. They want to spend as little as possible. And here's the interesting thing. There's no set home value. Some people are like, well, the $200,000 homes or the $400,000 to $500,000 homes or the $7 to $1 million homes. There are interesting dynamics in certain subdivisions. I'll just tell you that. You go into one subdivision that's all cookie cutter and it's a traditional, typical subdivision. And sometimes everybody in there cuts their own grass. It's a phenomenon. And then you go into the same subdivision, same cookie cutter subdivisions, $500,000 home values, and you'll notice that almost 8 out of 10 people, or 4/5 of people, get all of their lawn and landscaping services done by a contractor or a professional. So I wouldn't say that it's like certain home values. That's a big misnomer. Like, well, I just want to deal with all the $1 million homes and all the wealthy people. Maybe I've noticed some subdivisions where it's all upper middle class. Those people are sometimes the cheapest. I'm not saying they always are. I'm just saying sometimes they can be. I've noticed that there's certain subdivisions with $1 million homes, but you realize that all those people in those homes are 100 millionaires and billionaires, and they will spend a lot of money. But you go into another subdivision full of millionaires, and they're house poor millionaires, right? And so it's not always just the home value that you're looking for. There's many subdivisions I go into where the home values are $900,000, and they'll offer me, hey, why don't you come on in while I write you a check for some landscaping work? And when you go in there, there's no dining room table. It's a card table. You look at the couch. It's nothing but folding chairs. You go to the garage, and there is an old minivan, and he's got a nice Cadillac, but it's probably financed, right? So you're just like, somebody's fronting here. And I'm not saying that's conducive of everybody, but what I'm trying to communicate to you guys is think about your customers. Evaluate, go into different subdivisions, drive around. If you're just getting started and you're doing some investigating, right? You're exploring your options if you're going to start your own business. I would say is go into all these different subdivisions, go into these different parts of town and sides of town. See what other landscapers are doing. Go drive through subdivisions. Do you notice stripes and lawns that are striped with lawnmowers? Or does everybody in there seem to do their own work? Do you see nice pruning, nice hedges, nice shrub work? These landscaping beds that are a little bit more complex, which is good. Or do you see like minimal landscaping? They dropped $1,500 and they have like 5 shrubs and a little bit of rock and mulch. Maybe that might be for you. Can your equipment fit in there? There's some subdivisions going in right now where we get calls right where I live, and I already know they're like, oh, I'm on such and such road, and I go, hey, to be honest with you, none of my equipment fits in there. My mowers don't fit in there. My plow won't fit in there. In fact, you guys have like one driveway wide with one plow scrape with my truck, and I can't even shovel it or push it into your front yard. And they're like, well, can you just do snow blowers? I go, sure. For $799, I'll get out 20 times and go snow blow your driveway. And they're like, well, we're just going to look around for other people, right? I'm sure you are. So, but again, that's stuff that I now know, but if I'm looking back on it and I was just getting started, there's some subdivisions you want to be in and some subdivisions you don't. Again, go full circle to the name of the business. Let's say you're trying to service, these high-end neighborhoods or $1 million properties. Bob's Lawn Care might not do very well in there. What do they call it? Rick's Mowing? I think that's what it is, Paul. Rick's Mowing may or may not get the job in there. But if it's, high performance lawn and landscape or Pinnacle Lawn and Landscape, elite lawn services, right? Next level lawn and landscape. What else? Come on, guys. Think out loud with me. What else can we do? Top something, right? Top notch lawn and landscape, top notch property management. Like these kind of topics here scream next level and they think next level. So when a client or a customer, right, again, number one was the name and the colors and the branding. Number two is our target customer avatar and how much do we want them to spend a year for us? How much do they have in a home value with what they want to spend on their lawn and landscaping? Well, if you have, Pinnacle Lawn and Landscape and you're in $1 million subdivisions, that's cohesive. Somebody who's in those $1 million homes is looking for, and I love how Paul talks about this with some of his wealthier clients down in Atlanta. They want white glove. They want premium service. They want to know that they have a professional on their property who's not peeing in the woods and doing stupid stuff and lurking around and invading privacy. My friend Mike, he's got a lot of wealthy clients, and if he said names, you guys would know these people. Some of them are like famous sports athletes. Some of them are like famous rappers. Think about, Detroit. Think about that area. We'll leave it at that. There's a lot of famous rappers and stuff like that Mike Bedell knows. And they have, $1 million sound studios, in the basement. And Mike's like, yeah, dude. He goes, you want to talk about security? You have no idea. It's like, get in, get out, and don't look around. But come on, I mean, you got to be thinking at that level. And I don't want some random, schlep showing up onto my property. So that's something that we got to keep in mind as we pick our name and also how we pick what target customers that we want to do. Again, don't go by the home values necessarily, because I have $350,000 home value homes and in subdivisions that get literally every service I have, and the customer's worth $4 or $5 grand a year. And then, no lie, actually, I got rid of a route on my Friday route. Just a mile down the road, those folks, they were, the lawn should have been $35 and $40 cuts. Everybody was in there doing them for $22, $25. They all should have got aerations and overseed. None of them ever wanted it done. They wouldn't do any pruning or landscaping because they just didn't care, because they were never home, right? So they didn't really care. And I'm like, these homes are $400,000, $500,000, $600,000. Nobody in here cares about their landscaping. It was so bizarre. And I mean, I hit this subdivision off of this one road. I'm not going to say names because you guys know where I'm at, and I'm not trying to indict anybody. Great people, but they just never wanted to do anything to their home. And I was like, this was 4 or 5 years ago, I came to this realization. I'm like, what the heck, man? None of these people in here, and it wasn't my prices. My prices actually were pretty low. But a lot of the time, none of these people were getting anything done. And I'm like, because I grew up poor. So my mentality was, well, all the rich people want to spend money. Well, these weren't maybe the most rich people. Maybe some of these people were like middle class, upper middle class, that maybe didn't have a bunch of disposable income. Again, not making any slates. Can we just be honest? In 2020, I'm teaching you guys how to grow a lawn and landscape business. We got to go to where people have disposable income. They got money to invest in our business, right? So those are two things. Number three, we're going to be talking about here is equipment. Again, I made a bunch of mistakes with equipment, but I promised with this episode for you guys to keep it short and sweet. If I was going to go back, all the way back, and restart my lawn and landscape business, or I was going to start a new lawn and landscape business in 2020, 2021, like my friend who called in for the coaching call, we worked through a lot of these topics, and actually even more in depth for about a half an hour. He said, if you were going to go all the way back and you were going to start a lawn and landscape company, what would you do different? I said, well, number one, I would definitely probably pick a different name for my business, something that I could also sell off. It's gonna be kind of hard to sell off Brian's Lawn Maintenance, right? But I said a name that is generic, that is next level, that is top tier, that is also something that is can explain our name and the kind of quality that we're doing or what we are. We talked about color schemes. Number two was talking about our target customer. It's not just home values. It's how much money do those subdivisions spend on all that work? Is there work in those kind of subdivisions? And then number three, as we take a quick break here, we'll talk about equipment and some of the mistakes I made, and then also some of the helpful tips that I gave this other gentleman who called in for one of our coaching calls. So let's do this. We're going to change it up. I'm going to get a sip of my Tim Hortons coffee this morning. Shout out to Paul Jameson. We need Tim Hortons sponsoring the show. You know what I'm saying? So let's do this. Let's kick it over to Marty, Mr. Producer, and we'll come on right back.
Enjoying today's show? Motivated to take your lawn care and landscaping business to the next level? Learn what it takes to grow your lawn and landscaping business today with training and education from the Lawntrepreneur Academy. Get educated with how-tos on mulch installation, plowing snow, aeration and overseeding, and so much more. These training programs are designed to help you save time and make more money with your business. Invest in your future by first investing in yourself. Use promo code PODCAST to save 10% on all courses today at LawnTrepreneurAcademy.com. Are you ready to make some serious money this winter with snow and ice management services? Are you looking to position yourself as an industry professional and to protect your bottom line from issues like unstable salt prices? Don't get left out in the cold this winter. Head over to debtfreelandscaper.com to check out the highly sought-after commercial and residential snow plowing contracts. These agreements are available for internet download and are easy to edit and make your own. Debtfreelandscaper.com, the green industry's most professional resource for lawn and landscaping contracts, hiring employees and subcontractors, and where you'll find the same money-making commercial snow contract that numerous contractors like Brian Fullerton have used to dominate the snow and ice management industry. DebtFreeLandscaper.com. Head over to DebtFreeLandscaper.com to get access to these incredible resources today and put yourself in a position to plow through the competition.
Supporting our advertisers enables us to bring you all of this amazing content 3 times a week. At the very end of today's show, we've got a big announcement about what Brian calls the whole ball of wax. It really is something incredible. So I encourage you, keep listening to the Fullerton Unfiltered podcast.
Awesome. Great deal, guys. Well, let's jump right back into it. We'll just pick up right where we left off, and that is talking about equipment. Now, equipment is one of those things here where everybody gets started different. Again, my story was I grew a little bit along the way. I had the little dominoes, little stair-step approach where we had one lawnmower, we made some money, we invested into another lawnmower. We grew the business, we took on some more cash flow, we took on some more debt. We got another piece of equipment, we grew the business, we paid off the debt, and we just kept snowballing and stair-stepping our way to the rig that we have today. Now, funny thing is, though, I feel like I did get started with a lot of wrong equipment. My abridged version, again, of the story when we're talking about equipment is I first got, now remember, I was 19, 20. I didn't have any money. I didn't have any education. YouTube and Instagram and social media and podcasting, like what we have access today, is not even in the galaxy of what we had access to 10, 12, 15 years ago, right? So my first trimmer and leaf blower and edger were open boxed, returned open box, used clearance item, Craftsman products from Sears over in Brighton, Michigan. If any of my fans that are, you guys that are listening in, you guys know the area, Grand River, Brighton, Michigan, used to be a big Sears there, right on the corner. Well, I went in there and I was like, man, I'm starting my own lawn and landscape business. And I was like, dude, open box, clearance, returned. That sounds like a great value, like slightly gently used and it's clearanced out. I think I got like a little gas powered, like 20 cc engine, edger, a little like 18 cc engine trimmer, and a little handheld, actually it was a little backpack blower. It was a little backpack blower. It was probably, again, I don't know, 15, 20 cc's. It was such a cute little thing. I mean, I think most of us that you guys that have kids, like a little 5-year-old boy, would be rocking this blower that I picked up back in the day. The tube was probably like 2 inches in diameter, right? I probably got all 3 of them for $150 to $200. I mean, they were so minimal. They were so cute. It was like, I don't know, man. I just kind of reminisce a little bit. Hey, it's how I got started. What do you want from me? You know what I mean? My first trailer. Now, again, I had my brother's Dodge Durango was left at home because he was up at Michigan State. And when you were a freshman, sophomore at college at Michigan State, at least I believe it was, you couldn't have a vehicle up there. All I know is that my younger brother, he gained the freshman 15, and then year 2, he was fit as a fiddle because he took his bike up there because he's like, man, I've never ate like this before in my life, because he had the meal plan or whatever. But then number 2, he gained like 15 pounds. He's looking a little chunky. He's like, man, I need to get some exercise. I don't want to walk. He's like, so I'm going to start riding my bike. So he took his bike up there, left his Dodge Durango, and that was my first vehicle, my first truck. I'm not going to spend too much time on the truck because that's it's just one of those things where I would say, look, get a good truck that can provide and grow into the next level. Get maybe an F-250 WT, an F-250 XLT. Get a half-ton truck if you got it. I would stay away from like the Sonomas. I would stay away from the Rangers. They might be a little bit too light duty of a truck. Maybe you got a Colorado or like a little Dodge Dakota. Those might help you out. They're kind of a little bit bigger than the smaller Rangers back in the day. But you're going to outgrow those trucks as well. So if you're like 17, 18, 19 years old and you got some graduation money or something like that coming in, maybe find like a used F-150 or an F-250, like a 3/4 ton, and it might have 75 or 100,000 miles on it, right? But you can get some of these older trucks for 10, 12, 15, 20 grand, and they can be a gem to bridge you into growing your company later down the road. But again, going all the way back full circle, when I got started, I had a little Dodge Durango, and that vehicle, I outgrew it within my first year. The joke was you couldn't fill it up, even if you were at a gas pump, with the engine running. I mean, as fast as you would put gas into it, those big cylinders, bro, it was like the 5.3 or something like that, the 5.3 SXT, engine. I don't know if it's like a Hemi on it, or I don't even know what it was, but it was like some Dodge V8, bro. And the funny thing too, ironically enough, was the gas gauge had broke in the Dodge Durango. So you never knew how much gas you had. So every day, I didn't know if it had a half tank or quarter tank. We'd always put 20 or 25 bucks in every single day, 20, 25 bucks. Just to, if you went out, the goal, the joke was throw 20 bucks in because you never know. And the ironic part of it, the irony is that we never filled it up. Every single day we'd throw 20 bucks into that thing. And if you guys have the Dodge Durango SXT 5.3 or whatever back in the day, the 2002s, you know what I'm talking about. We never filled up the gas tank. Like you would think after 5 days in a row putting 20 bucks in, eventually the full tank would click on the gas pump and you'd be full. No, that thing never filled up. So what I would say is get a vehicle that's also somewhat fuel efficient. Again, we're just going to move on from the truck part, but get a good F-150. Okay, you can pull a 7x14 trailer with a nice newer being like 2012 and above, Ford F-150. I think you should be fine. Check your ratings, check all your numbers, look over your paperwork, cross your T's, dot your I's. But you can also get a good 3/4 ton as well for 10, 20 grand. It might not be, the most perfect looking truck. Just keep it clean. Wash it, keep it clean, wipe it down, get it repainted for, $400 or $500. Clean up the rims and tires. And look, it's a lawn care landscaping truck. Most people, what I've come to find, and here's what I will say about this. What I've come to find is that most customers, they may judge you initially on your equipment. Most of them don't care, but some of them may do. Some of them might. But even if they do, as long as you do good work, I've personally never cared about somebody coming up to our apartment or any place where we've had and judge them on their vehicle. I said, I'm always going to judge them on their work. Right. So you might show up in like this hoopty. You might have like an old, square body, those old Jeeps, the bulletproof Jeeps. And you might pull up with that and a little utility trailer. And you're like, man, I look like a loser. I look like an idiot. No, you don't. You're just growing. It's part of the progression. A lot of people start there. Don't beat yourself up. Okay. Take that Jeep around town, but wash it. Okay. Clean it up. Now, if you have a Jeep and you went mudding with the boys over the weekend, don't do that. Okay, just go spend $10, power wash it Sunday night or first thing Monday morning before you head on out, and you got your little utility trailer with your Skag or your Exmark or your branded mower, and then you go out there and you start cutting grass. Cut grass the best you can. Do the best landscaping job you can. You're going to be judged for your work, not the vehicle you show up on in. So don't think that, well, my business would really start growing if I had a 2500, Chevy Silverado, or, I had Thunder, this, F-250 Lariat truck. No way at all. Buy a nice truck, keep it clean, and that's where you can start growing your business. So talking about buying the wrong equipment, let's just speed through this so I don't beat a dead horse. I bought a little 5x8 utility trailer from Tractor Supply. Wasn't a bad trailer, wasn't a bad option, but I should have went to a larger trailer because we outgrew it in about 30 seconds, right? As soon as I put my little 48-inch Viking walk behind on it, we had already outgrown it. It was angle iron. It was a little rickety, little cheap thing. It's designed to haul like a John Deere tractor to like your grandparents' house to mow their 3 acres, okay, once every 2 weeks. It's designed to maybe haul a quad or an ATV across town, maybe a couple cords of firewood, right? It's not designed to necessarily be used as a daily driver, for your lawn landscape equipment. Now, can it? Yes. Can it last a few years? Absolutely. It's still a fine trailer. And back in the day, they're $800. I don't know what they go for today. I feel like they're almost like inflation proof because they're always $7.99 at Tractor Supply, even 10 years ago, which is kind of funny. So it's not a bad trailer, but you're just going to realize over time that the angle iron is not very rigid. The welds on the trailer and the ramp, they're pretty cheap. So it's not something that you're going to want to stick with long term. So if that's $800, what I would say is spend a few bucks, maybe double, spend $1,500 to $2,000 and get a nice 7x14 trailer. Now, again, I went from the 5x8 utility trailer and we upgraded to a 6.5x12 SureTrack utility trailer. I thought that was a good next step for my business. And it was. It was. I was able to put my little 36-inch Metro walk-behind sideways, my little belt-driven walk-behind unit, my little Exmark red mower at the front, turn it sideways. We ratchet it strapped to the corner. And then we also had my Exmark Laser Z S lawnmower behind it, right? So I was able to fit 2 mowers on there. So it did kind of make sense for what I was doing. But looking back on it, with all due respect to even Kelly and Sons, I think personally for me, it was the wrong trailer. I should have got a 7.5 by 14 or 7.5 by 16 utility trailer because we would have had so much more room for 2 units. We would have had room for 2 machines. Now on a 7 by 14, you can have 2 zero-turn mowers on there and, not just always have to turn everything sideways. And I'm not opposed to turning equipment sideways, but here's what you're going to run into as well. The trailer is going to start getting off balanced, right? I see a lot of guys excuse me, I see a lot of guys that when they're driving down the road, they've got 2 stand-on units banked sideways in the front left pocket. And then they've got like their, 4 trimmer rack, equipment defender or green touch racks on the right-hand side. And they have 3 leaf blowers on the right-hand side. What do you think you're doing to the frame of that trailer? I mean, you go over like a triple train track and you just see the whole thing flex. I see it happen all the time. So do you guys as well. And I'm like, I'm just like, dude, you're kind of buying time. You got, 1,200, 1,500, 1,800 pounds on the front left corner. You got another like 500 to 600 pounds on the back right corner. You are really flexing this thing. The trailer's, 18 feet long or 16 feet long. I'm like, I don't know if I like that. So keep your units straight in if you can and keep them over the axles as much as you guys can as well. Now, if you have that going on with your rig and your trailer and your setup, God bless. Like, I'm not throwing shade. I'm just saying invest in the most high quality, thickest tube top trailer that you guys can. Don't be doing that with like, angle iron trailers from a Tractor Supply. There is a big difference in quality, rigidity, and making sure that your equipment is going to last. You don't have any safety issues as well. Again, it's not how much you haul around with that thing. It's how much can you stop? How fast can you stop? Does it have brakes? That's the stuff you're really looking to invest in as you continue to grow your trailer. Now, again, I had a 5x8. It was okay. But looking back on it, even though it would have been big for just my little 48-inch walk behind, just plopping 1 mower on the 7x14, yeah, but I didn't have to spend $800 on one trailer, then $2,000 plus on that 6.5 by 12. So let's say that was $2,200 plus $800, that's $3,000. If I would have just spent the full $1,800 to $2,000 and get the 7x14 right out of the gate, I would have just saved $1,000 to $1,500 instead of upgrading all these different trailers all along the way, plus tags and titles and taxes, right? And fees. So then I would have also been able to have the opportunity to grow my business by putting 2 mowers on there instead of like, oh crap, I got to invest in another mower. Well, do I do the mower or the trailer? Do I finance one or the other? And we don't have so much cash flow, so which one do we do? So if I was going to start all over again, I'd get a 7x14 utility. Now, whole nother talk for the whole nother time for maybe the enclosed trailers. I wouldn't suggest right out of the gate going with an enclosed trailer because in the beginning, that's a lot of money. Let's just be honest. You don't want to be dropping $4, $5, $6 on an enclosed trailer. If you got it, go ahead and do it. Get a 7x14 or 8.5 by 16, 18. Those are going to be $5 to $10. So if you got the money, go ahead and do it. I do like the 7x14s. It's just once you start putting 2 units in there and you add racks, you're going to be packed in there like sardines. So I've always been a fan of the wider trailers, the 8.5s by 16, 18, 20, something like that. 7x14 though, great middle ground. Again, nothing wrong with it. My only concern for me personally is that when I add a bagger, it's going to be extremely tight. And also, there's no walking room. Like, you have to walk out the side door to get to the back. You have to walk out the back door to get to the side. It just kind of gets a little goofy. But you know what? Those trailers are manageable. So they're $3-4 not exactly a bad setup. But for me personally, if I was looking all the way back, and even till still today, that's how it is. I go, man, remember back in the day how much easier it was to like wash and park and manage a utility trailer that was a 7x14 or 6.5 by 12. I'm like, man, sometimes less is more in those. And I'm like, man, I could have an extra $10 in the bank instead of this big ass enclosed trailer. But I do love my enclosed trailer. And again, you can get a a trailer sign for the back ramp. It's the Diebond, D-I-E-B-O-N-D, the Diebond material. You can get a good Diebond material sign, let's say 36 by 48 inches or 48 by 60. drill holes, get some carriage bolts, put those on the back ramp. You can get a sign made up from a local print shop for $200-$300. And those are a rolling billboard like crazy. So if you have a utility trailer and you don't have a sign on the back, that is the lowest hanging fruit of traditional marketing that I could suggest, besides maybe a Google My Business listing, right? All right, so let's go also so get a bigger trailer, okay? I know if you're just starting out, you're like, well, I'm only going to put one, right stander on there or one 48-inch X-Mark. It's going to look kind of dumb. Well, yes and no. Trust me, you'll grow into that thing in your first 12, 18 months. And again, I don't want you to hit your head on the glass ceiling instantly by getting a smaller trailer. Let's talk about the mowers. The mowers, again, I see a lot of guys, and there's different philosophies out there. Again, I did an episode 19. It's called Don't Dull the Scalpel. It was my get out of debt story. But my get out of debt story, I've actually used debt to get out of debt. As weird as that sounds. Now, here's my attitude. If you want to just grow stair step and you want to grow slow, that's fine. You make some money, you reinvest, you grow. You make some money, you reinvest, you grow. That's fine. That can take 2, 5, 10, 15, 20 years. I mean, it just depends on what you're trying to accomplish, right? For me, by using about $100,000 worth of debt, I was able to basically quadruple my business in 24 to 36 months. Okay, so I decided to use debt to grow my company, to grow cash flow. When we had a bunch of cash flow, I paid off all the bad debt, and now I have great cash flow, no debt, bunch of assets. And that's just the approach I wanted to do. I just wanted to slingshot to the front of the line for me and what I was trying to do. And I was like, well, if I make some money and I pay some stuff off, sure. If I make some money, I pay some stuff off, sure. But it just felt like it was going to take, 10 years. So what I was suggesting to this gentleman, and again, what I'll suggest to you guys is, number one, you got to figure out, to go all the way back to the beginning, what are you comfortable with doing? What's your tolerance to debt? What's your tolerance to risk? Do you have a safety net? Does your wife have a job? There's a lot of context that's got to be weighed here before you just say, you know what, I'm going to go to the front of the line, to the front of the class, and buy a $10,000 mower. I'm not opposed if you do, but what the big thing I don't want to see anybody do is go out there and buy $50,000 setup year one. I don't think you should necessarily do that. I will be the first one to say, buy a quality trailer, buy a quality mower, and buy a quality truck, 10, 15, 20 grand truck. I don't think you need a $50,000 truck, a $10,000 enclosed trailer, and two, $12,000 stand-on or zero-turn mowers, right? So let's not go to that level of the extreme. Brian's Law Maintenance is definitely not telling you to do that. But have a decent truck. It can be used. Have a good, decent truck. Have a nice, new, good trailer. It's very important. Have nice hand tools. We'll get into that. And then have a good mower. For me personally, I got started with a X-Mark Viking 48-inch walk behind. Not a bad option. Now, my biggest concern with that is I had no idea what I was doing. Okay, I'm not going to go to the whole story. I talked about it on episode 1. I bought the wrong mower because I was even looking at a whole different mower, and my sales guy was like, "Dude, what are you doing?" He's like, "We could sell you that mower, but that is not what you're looking for." I was looking to buy this high-end residential X-Mark mower back in the day, and I was gonna. I'm embarrassed to even say this out loud. I was gonna ramp it in the back of my brother's Dodge Durango with little ramps, wood boards or the metal ATV ramps. And the guy was like, exactly what you guys are thinking right now is what he was thinking. He's like, that's not what you're going to be wanting to do. And he's like, man, plus I don't want to see you kill yourself trying to ramp this thing in the back of an SUV. But again, I was so remedial. It's not even funny. I don't even know, mentally, I was so immature. I just didn't have any clue. So he cross-sold me. He transitioned me to buying an X-Mark 48-inch walk behind. It's a great mower. It's a great little mower, fixed deck, maybe, I don't know, 14, 18 horsepower back in the day, whatever it was. I think I had a little Kawasaki engine. There was nothing wrong with that mower. But looking back on it, was it the exact mower I should have went with? Knowing what I know now, no. Me personally, I'm a big fan of the 52 or the 60-inch turf tracer. Okay, I think it's between $500 to $6,500. I think it's still today one of the best starting lawnmowers that are out there. Period, case closed. You can argue stand on versus sit down. You can argue walk behind versus this versus that. I've got videos on every single topic. And again, there's no right or wrong answer. It's what makes sense for your business model right now. What makes sense for your budget right now. The reason I like a turf tracer or even any good walk behind that has a floating deck is that it's going to stripe really, really well, get a hydraulic walk behind unit, pick your brand, versus the belt and the gear driven, because it's going to be so much easier for you to use with those hydraulic hand controls versus trying to knock your knee on a little lever, little arm that is going to adjust the gears for, forward, reverse, and then if you're going forward, different miles per hour forward. Every time you want to transition, you have to hold the thing into neutral on the going forward. You have to knock it with your knee. You go from 4 to 5 miles per hour. It's going to jolt away from you guys. Some of you guys are listening to this, maybe doing that as I speak, and you're like, it's just nonsense, dude. It just gets a little tiring really quick. Plus, it's also extremely hard to ride a wheelie cart, a Velky, a sulky, the little cart that you stand on with a gear-driven unit. Can you do it? Absolutely. It takes a lot of skill, something that you're not going to master your first 2-3 months in business. Not when you got everything else going on, and we don't want any accidents, okay? So what I like about the Turf Tracer, solid mower, very robust, 48, 52, or 60 inch. They come in different size decks. The floating deck is going to contour the grass. It's going to look really, really nice. And you can adjust the height of that whole cutting deck and platform with a couple pins. Now, back in the day, my Exmark Viking, you would change the pitch, the rake of the cutting deck and the front casters with these little like brass washers, these little, grade 8 washers. So every time I wanted to change the height of the deck, it was predicated on me changing these washers out of the front forks, the front yokes of the front caster wheels. It was the most annoying thing I've ever done in my entire life. One lawn I had to cut at 3 inches. The next one was 3.5. Then we take on a new one-time cut that was 5 inches tall grass, and we had to raise it all the way up. And I'm like, this is literally the stupidest thing I've ever done in my life. I hated that aspect of it. So get a mower that has the ability to be adjusted easily and quickly, whether that's deck pins, which is extremely simple, or a deck lever assist, of course. Like, for example, Exmark came out with the new Staris E-Series. I wasn't a big fan of the 19s, the 18, 19s, whatever they came out with. I said, look, because I was talking to some of the lead engineers, and they were like, what's some feedback out there? I go, I'm telling you guys the same thing that all of you guys, right, listening, are saying, and that is, why didn't you guys make a deck lever assist? They made that 2019 Staris E-Series, the little one, like the 33 or 36 inch, with the same thing I just told you guys about. You had to adjust like the deck with like the wheels and all this stuff, and it was like, dude, that's like technology from 2014. What are you guys doing? And they took heat for it, and they should have. But now the 2020 Staris 36 inch, it now has a deck lever assist. So if you guys are trying to buy a new Staris E-Series, for example, buy a 2020 and above. Don't just buy it sight unseen, because they might try to sell you the one without it, because I'm sure there's some inventory that's left out there. Buy one with a deck lever assist. Now, the reason I like walk behinds is because it doesn't matter if you grow a $100,000 a year company, a $1 million a year company, or a $10 million company, a 48, 52, or 60 inch walk behind unit is forever going to be useful in your fleet. You're always going to have hills, divots, ditches, something that you can put that walk behind unit on. If your main mowers go down, those turf tracers, you can go right now on, different marketplaces, and you can find them with 2, 3, 4, 5,000 hours. Some of them have a second set of engines, of course, but they're still running. They still stripe amazing. And it's just a stout staple unit that you can have in your fleet. Now, once you get that walk behind, you can always upgrade to standards. You can always upgrade to 0 turns. You can always do all the above. Now, again, to go full circle, that was my first impression with my first unit. Now, what I've also told a lot of you guys, and I was telling this gentleman the same thing, is that if you are getting started in business, get a good 36-inch stand-on as well, or start with a good 36-inch stand-on. Those are anywhere between $6,000 and $10,000. Usually, they're about 6 to 7, maybe $8,000 at the most. But a 36-inch stand-on unit with a 20, 22, 23 horsepower engine can go a long way, right? So what I did is I started with a 40-inch walk behind, no floating deck, and I had to change the height all the time. I would have rather have gotten a turf tracer in my story, my example. Most of my properties in my area are wide open. So instead of maybe even the turf tracer, maybe I could have got a Radius X series or a Laser Z E series, something that was a little bit bigger, something a little bit beefier to start with. Now, my budget I was broke. So $5,000 was kind of my budget. Some of you guys getting started, you're not broke. You have a couple bucks, you're making a transition. And we talk about the best equipment to pick from in the whole ball of wax bundle. There's a lot of options out there, but maybe you do have 5, 10, 15 grand you can throw around and play with. Do you need an Exmark X series, Kohler, 34, 36, 38 horsepower engine? Maybe not. Maybe you can get a good, E series or S series. But if you want to go all in, hey, go all in. I'm not going to stop you from doing it. So a 36-inch stand-on is a great option because you can always get the back-gated yards. For some of you guys got a lot of gated properties, and you can go with that. A 36-inch stand-on can also do a front yard, no problem. If you're upgrading this rig on that 7x14 trailer, you can put the 36 up front, and then later down the road, you can buy a 52 or a 60 of whatever brand or of whatever style, stand-on or sit-down. So a lot of rigs you'll see around town, you'll see a 36-inch stander or like a 33-inch walk-behind, something for those back-gated yards. And then you'll also see that bigger zero-turn or stand-on mower for like the wide area properties. So again, the evolution of a lot of equipment setups, 36-inch walk-behind or stand-on, and then a 52 or 60 stand-on or zero-turn. Now, even going full circle to my zero-turn, when I decided to upgrade to my zero-turn, I kind of feel like I bought the wrong zero-turn. I bought a Laser Z S. Back in the day, I think it was the 2760, 27 horsepower Cowie with the 60-inch deck. Totally fine mower, nothing overly really wrong with it. It was a good mower, it's 10.4. But the 27 horsepower, I didn't really feel comfortable putting a bagger on it, right? So that's the big caveat with some of these zero-turn mowers. Don't buy the 25 horsepower unit. Can you throw a bagger on it? Sure, but it's going to struggle. If you're going to throw a bagger on some of these bigger units, you're going to want, the 29, the 31, the 34 horsepower engines. That little bit of an extra 4 or 5 horsepower, believe it or not, makes a big bump when you're trying to add a bagger. So again, let's say you're going from that Turf Tracer, that 36. You're like, dude, I'm about to go all in, man. I want to buy that new Exmark Laser Z. I'm just going to go with the E series, or I'm going to go with the S series. And like the E is probably like, I don't know, $9,000. The S is probably 10, 12. And you're like, well, I'm just going to go with the S series. And I'm like, all right, cool, dude. And then they're like, yeah, I can't with the bag with it. And I'm like, ugh. Hey, dude, if it was me, I would spend the extra $2-3 and get the X series. I know it's a lot of money. I know they're 15, 18 grand. Don't get me wrong. But that extra horsepower is going to make a huge difference if you're going to start doing leaf cleanups. I know it sounds like a lot of money up front because you're thinking about mowing. But an extra $2-4 making that jump from the S to the X is pennies when you start looking at leaf cleanup numbers, right? You're looking at it through the lens of how can I pay this $3,000 off with maintenance? Yeah, that's going to take a long road to hoe. That's an extra 100 lawns you got to cut, plus, right, at 30 or 40 bucks each. That's an extra 5 or 10 leaf cleanups. Okay, it's really no big deal. When you add that bagger and that extra horsepower and you start factoring it and filtering it through the lens of doing leaf cleanups. So don't get an E Series X Mark or an S Series X Mark if you plan to bag, right? Spend the extra $3-4, get the X Series. It cuts better. It's got a better spindles, bigger engines. It just stripes better. It can process more grass, more clippings. If you've ever rode the X Mark Laser Z X, you know what I'm talking about. It's the Cadillac. I still think it's the best zero-turn mower out there. I say close second is the Skag Turf Tiger 2. I love the Skag Turf Tiger 2. I thought it was a great mower. But I do love the UltraVac deck, and I love the UltraCut, or I should say the UltraVac leaf cleanup system, and I love the UltraCut deck. I still think, arguably, they're one of the best two platforms. Now, again, can't mention equipment without me throwing my little preface out there that says, your area, it might be different. Demo, right? And by the way, you might have Ferris, you might have Toro, you might have Hustler. Great. That's all. It's all the same. Just take the same philosophy of what I'm talking about and apply it to your business. So as we go full circle to this whole talk, changing the name. By the way, some of you guys, you listen to this and you're like, yeah, dude, but like, I'm already 3 years in or 5 years in or 10 years in. I already got the equipment. I've evolved with that. I've already kind of figured out the customer thing with what you were just saying, Brian. Yeah, I agree. But what about my name? Well, for me personally, I'm 15 seasons in. I'm not going to change my name. Okay. I've been in the area. I've been in the community. We've given money to like schools and charities and all that kind of stuff. We're known in the area with my marketing and branding. I'm not going to change it from Brian's Lawn Maintenance to Pinnacle Lawn and Landscape. Now I still could, but I'd have to have the foresight to know that in 5 years, the idea or the reason we did that is to sell it off. So I have to be willing to possibly lose 10, 20% of my business. Hey, Brian's Lawn Maintenance is now known as Pinnacle Lawn and Landscaping. Spend 5 years growing that company, getting me out of the business, building systems, growing it to $1 million plus company, putting in 15 to 18 people there, and then we're going to sell that thing off. Am I going to do that? Well, we always could, and I'm not saying that we're not going to, but right now, an easier approach for me is to keep my business small, keep it boutique, keep it white glove service, have great profit margins, and just have me and a guy or me and a couple guys. But again, can you rebrand yourself? Well, here's what I'd say. if you're 2-3 years into business, I still think you're in that freshy stage. Okay, I still think you can change your business's name. If you just got started and your name is Mark and it's Mark's Lawn Care, you can still change your name to, Quality Lawn and Landscape. You can still name your company, something bigger, something magnanimous, something more professional, property management, property services, something of that nature. I'd say it's still okay for you to change your name if you want to do that. And again, let's say you're going to be doing this for 2 decades. You're 3 years in. You're only 5 or 7 or 10% of the way into your career, right? It's really no big deal. It's going to take some money. It's going to take some time. Do you have another $500 to $1,000 to legally change your name? Get a new logo made up for $400. Do you want to rebrand all your marketing and print materials for $1,000? Maybe you do. Maybe you do. It will be pennies if you want to grow and be able to create an asset that you can sell off in 5 or 10, 20 years, right? So it's going to be a lot harder for you to sell Mark's Landscaping when you're Mark and all your contracts and all your customers know Mark and you're, 20 years down the road, right? So if you're going to build a company in that fashion, and that's where you're skating to where the puck is going to go, like Wayne Gretzky always used to say, then sure, change that stuff now because it'll be $1,000-$2,000 now. It can make you an extra 6 or 7 figures later down the road. So it is worth the investment. Now, if you want to just stay small, stay boutique, Mark's Landscaping, that's fine. You can do that for the next couple years. And by the way, Mark's Landscaping can turn into, hey guys, we're doing a slight property or a slight name change. We're going to go from Mark's Lawn Care to Mark's Lawn and Landscape, or Mark's Property Services, or Mark's Property Management. Like, that's a subtle name change, but it still screams twice or 3x as much professionalism in that name versus just Mark's Lawn Care. And again, if your business is named after you in lawn care, like, it's not a slate or an indictment. Again, I'm trying to teach you guys business ownership, entrepreneurship, business owner mindset. So kind of understand the mindset here more than just the, I thought, Mark's Lawn Care is working. We're doing 70 grand a year in business. Dude, that's awesome. I'm not getting in your grill at all. Trust me, I'm Brian's Lawn Maintenance. Now, would I like to have like Brian's Lawn and Landscape? Sure, but there's 5 Brian's in my area and that one's already taken. I'm not even going to get into it. By the way, trademark and copyright all your stuff. We did that on a different episode with Mark Goodman. So to go full circle to the gentleman that we were talking about, look at your colors. Are your colors just kind of all over the place? Do you have 5 colors and 4 colors part of your name? That might not be the most efficient way to grow your marketing, your color schemes. Most of the biggest companies, and I heard this from Paul Jamison, and it was a really good point. They have 1 or 2 colors: silver and black, white and black, red and white, gray and white, green and white. Very, very simple color schemes. What you don't want to do is have a 4-color scheme logo or name or brand. And this is a marketing and it's just really a cost thing. If you have 4 or 5 colors, part of your name and logo, and you go to get a t-shirts made up, you go to get postcards made up, you go to get your trailer signage or vinyl or wrapped, you're going to run into a runaway freight train of expense. To get a trailer wrapped up in let's say 2 colors, it might be $2,500. You had 3 colors, it's $3,500. You had 4 colors, and all of a sudden you got $4,500 or whatever. And you're like, dude, what just happened? And they're going to say, well, you have 4 colors. And that's how it gets factored in for the price when you start growing your marketing materials. So let's say with a t-shirt, again, this is stuff that I did not know way back in the day. Thankfully, I always kept it like red, black, whites, and grays. But again, if you have 4 or 5 colors, when you go to get a t-shirt made up, let's say you get 20 crew shirts, and you have the shirt, which is $5 to $7, and you get the name, the logo, the whatever, the screen printing. Well, each shirt might cost you $15. Well, you add 4 colors, and it might be $26 a shirt. And you're like, what just happened? That was 10 times 20. You just spent another $200-$300 on getting your shirts made up, and all because you had 4 colors instead of 2. So greens and yellows, greens and whites, dark greens, light greens. I'll leave it up to you guys. Go on Google, look up the color wheel, look up psychology, look up landscaping logos, landscaping design. Find some key things that you like, okay? Take all that stuff, make a Pinterest board, make an Instagram folder. Then go sit down with a graphics design print shop. Not your brother-in-law, not your cousin who does some stuff on the side. Go to a real professional print shop, local print shop, design studio. You can go to Fiverr. Fiverr's hit or miss, $35 to $80. You can get a lot of stuff made up on Fiverr, fiverr.com. Liz and I use a bunch of their stuff, little services like little virtual assistants and Upwork type people, but it's hit or miss. And I will tell you, sometimes you get good stuff and you find a gem based on the portfolio of the person you're looking up. And then other times you get stuff back and you're like, dude, like, I don't care if you're from Bangladesh, bro. I still expect like some top quality work. So any which way, if not, go find a local print shop, somewhere that you can go in person, communicate and show them your phone, your Pinterest board, or your Instagram folder of saved photos. Hey, this is what I'm looking for. I like this design element. I like this background. I like how they had the little circle with the hedges and the arch. I like these color schemes. I don't like this. And they're going to go, okay. And you make this hodgepodge, you make this collage, and they design it and they make it your own. And then you throw it up on Instagram and people go, oh my God, you're brilliant. You're a genius. How did you come up with this stuff? And really you're like, well, I took about 9 things from other people that I really liked and then made it my own. And that's totally fine, okay? You're not copying anything. You're just taking cues and elements from everybody that you did like and got rid of the stuff that you didn't like, and that's fine. So this, to go full circle, the naming of your business, the target customer, and the right equipment. Okay, for me, I bought basically all wrong handheld equipment. I bought Redmax 5150s for $450. I should have just spent the other $100 and got Redmax 8550s. I bought Redmax edgers. I bought the 26 cc Redmax edgers or whatever they are. I should have bought the 34 cc edgers. One edger was $329. The bigger one was like $429. The extra $100, I know it only sounds like an extra 4 or 5 cc's, but it's a galaxy difference when you're trying to edge a stupid curb and the one's bogging down and the other one just slices through it, right? When you're looking at combi systems like the steel combis, I know there's like the 91R combi system, the 111 combi system, and the 131. Get the 131, okay? Bigger is always better with it when it comes to combi systems, okay? Trimmers, bigger doesn't always mean better. Sometimes you can spend less and do pretty good with trimmers, but spend the nicer money if you got it. And of course, I had to grow. I had to stair step because I didn't have a lot of extra funds in cash. But if you can go from a 5150 to a 7500 and a 7500 to an 8500, that's fine. That's what I had to do. But I would have just rather had the hindsight to go from the little handheld blower, drop 600 and get the 8550. Or if I did have a 5150 Redmax, go right to the 8500, not stair step, right? Go do an extra trimming job, pruning job, go lay a couple extra yards of mulch, go pull some weeds for 4 or 5 hours, and just go all the way to the top for the blowers, right? So this was about a 20-minute, some of the topical stuff that we talked about with this gentleman on the coaching call that I think he got from the whole ball of wax bundle. But if not, coaching calls are available. There is going to be a price bump on those, just so you guys know, because I spent a lot of time on those coaching calls with you guys, and I'm really, really focused. And right now, the price is just a little low for what I'm looking to make per hour when I'm trying to take care of my time and my income to hit my goals in life. So we're going to bump those up just a little bit starting October 1st. But if you want to schedule them now or book them now, and we can always redeem them later, there's no expiration on them. But I'd love to chat with you guys about how to help you guys grow your business, talk through certain things, whether it's social media stuff, business stuff, equipment, just, X's and O's and, talking prices, how to price this, how to value that. Go ahead. You can purchase those at launchpreneuracademy.com. I think right now they're $99, but there will be a bump here by October 1st. And again, there's no expiration. A lot of you guys that do buy the whole ball of wax bundle, for example, look, I know there's about 2 to 3, months worth of content to get through. A lot of guys, they purchase the whole ball of wax and they're like, hey, do I need to do the call now? I'm like, no, we can do the call in 3, 4, 5, 6 months, whenever works for you, when you need it. Get through all the information, then start making a list of questions. And then if you want to chit chat about specifics and dial it in and make it specific for you, let's do that later. But most people that get the whole ball of wax bundle, they redeem those coaching calls 2-3 months later. So, all right, well, this is kind of how it works for me. If I was going to look back on it and I was going to restart today, I would definitely pick a little bit different of a name. I would approach it a little bit different. I would probably personally do my color schemes in the greens and whites and the yellows and greens versus maybe red and blacks, although I love my marketing and colors and my branding. I would dial in my customers, pick areas of towns where people have high priced homes, but where people do a lot of work, right? There's a big difference between having, subdivisions of $750,000 and people who spend $5,000 a year or more on their lawn and landscaping. It's a big difference there. So wealthier subs don't always mean more revenue, more business. Okay. And then number 3, equipment. Try to get the nicer equipment, the top of the line of equipment, just skate to the front. Leverage that if you want to. If you don't, that's fine. Me personally, I had to do both. A lot of times we were buying stuff, reinvesting and growing. And then sometimes we just did skate to the front of the line by leveraging debt. But again, go listen to episode, I think it's 19, Don't Dull the Scalpel. I go into my debt story with how I used good debt to pay off all my bad debt and then have cash flow, a few years later, which is what we have access to today. So guys, that's it. Thank you so much for listening. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this podcast, this episode of Fullerton Unfiltered. If you guys enjoyed it, don't forget to leave us those all-important ratings and reviews. But guys, that's it for me. It's Sunday afternoon. I'm going to finish up my Tim Hortons coffee here. I'm going to go mow my personal property, which I'm super excited about that. Don't forget to check out Brian's Law Maintenance on YouTube if you guys haven't subscribed there. And also, by the way, if you're listening this far in, check out our second channel, Fullerton Party of Two. That channel just crossed over 4,000 subscribers, and we're giving the whole behind-the-scenes tour and look of our new home and property that we just built as we go through that whole process over the next 24 months. It's going to be super, super exciting. So, guys, that's it from me. Thanks so much for listening. I'm going to kick it back over to Marty, Mr. Producer, and let him take it away.
I was watching the channel that Brian just mentioned over the weekend, thoroughly enjoyed the video where he and Liz go to the architect's office to begin designing their home. If you haven't watched that one, it's pretty inspiring. Now, I promised you some big news on the whole ball of wax. That's what Brian calls purchasing every single one of his training courses at Lawntrepreneur Academy. Now, the cost is only $4.99, but here's what's unprecedented. Brian's got 7 brand new resources about to go online this fall, and for a very limited time, when you get the whole ball of wax, again for only $4.99, that means that you're going to get these 7 brand new resources, approximately a $500 value, absolutely free. But wait. You know how this goes. But wait, that's not all. You're going to get lifetime access to all courses and resources from the past and any new additions in the future. You'd be crazy not to buy this right now at LawnTrepreneurAcademy.com. Brian has not even told me when this promotion ends, so I'd be scrounging up $4.99, and certainly that's going to be one of the best investments that you'll make in you and your business. So hurry on over to LawnTrepreneurAcademy.com. In fact, I'm headed that way myself.
Thanks for taking the time to listen to the Fullerton Unfiltered podcast with Brian Fullerton. We hope you enjoyed this production. If so, please consider leaving us a 5-star review for the show. While the techniques and ideas presented here are designed to help you grow a more successful and profitable business, no one can guarantee these results for you. We want to emphasize that entrepreneurship is not easy, and the ideas presented here are just the opinions of Brian Fullerton and his respective guests. No one can guarantee success for you. That being said, we hope the ideas presented here help you and motivate you to go on out there and crush it with your own business.
Fullerton Unfiltered Podcast.
Thanks for listening, and we hope to see you on the next episode.